So good morning, Johannah.
Morning, Liam. How are you?
I am perky. Obviously, it is the day before England's second lockdown, so I'm currently on a social binge. Um, see,
I'm just not perky at all. The whole thing is making me thoroughly depressed.
well, unfortunately, you can't escape it, I don't think. So, got to do what you can.
I know, I just want to get
Perky.
under my duvet and stay there.
Oh, take those walks on the stormy coast. Some fun, upbeat music,
I don't think
bright
anything will
colours.
save me. I don't think even putting my Christmas tree up early has not saved me.
Even seeing me.
Sorry, sorry. It's just all that cold weather, isn't it? It just makes you want to get into the duvet.
Uh, Potentially, I don't have that issue, but yeah, got to be perky. You can see the sea from where you are anyway.
I can see the sea, and it is currently a blue sky, and it doesn't appear to be windy. Hoorah, because I think for the last 3 weeks it has either been pouring with rain or been really windy every single day. And I've not been able to get out into the garden. It's been hard to go for walks because the coastal walkway has been blocked because it's been flooded. It's just been so
Right.
it's just I guess that's the small mercy is that now going into lockdown, the weather's getting better.
That's what happened the first time round. Also,
It is.
you're the one considering moving to the wildest north of Scotland. Weather's not going to be any better up there.
Well, allegedly, it's not going to be as windy, but who knows? I think it has been extraordinarily windy this year,
Right. Now,
because in the summer it was quite windy.
so question for you, put you on the spot pop quiz. It is, what's the date today? 4th of November?
4th of November.
November. Should you want to go to Scotland tomorrow, can you go?
Yes, you can, but you can't stop anywhere in England on the way.
So you are allowed to travel there, are you?
Well, you see, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because so much of the legislation is not necessarily illegal, it's guidance. And I know we've debated this many times before. And the thing is that on a current the guidance that is intended to come in is that it actually states that you can only I can't remember the exact words, but you can only travel
Yeah.
for a reason,
Right.
of which there things like work, um, medical emergencies, um, all of those types of things. Now, the thing is, in the current guidance, in lockdown Mark 1,
Yeah.
all the estate agents closed.
Yeah.
They're not closing this time, so you can still have house viewings.
Right.
So, in terms of this conversation, we currently have our house on the market, and we are thinking of moving to Scotland. And in Scotland, of course, because of devolved powers, they're not in lockdown at the moment.
Okay.
So, despite the fact that bars, restaurants, and hotels are closed in England, they're not necessarily all closed in Scotland. So, given that we are thinking of moving to Pitlochry, that is our intended destination. If we were to receive an offer on our house, as long as we drive straight up to Scotland, we can still do that within the context of the law.
Right.
And also we could probably also, because also the guidance has kind of changed a bit on public transport as well, is we could probably, if we could get a ticket, also travel by train, because the guidance is to avoid journeys now rather than any particular type of transport. So the guidance has changed from being avoiding journeys if you can, but active transport, e.g. walking and cycling, is to be encouraged.
Yeah.
Although I don't fancy at this time of year cycling to Scotland, but it would be allowable.
The wind would blow you that way.
Actually, the wind has been in the right direction to do that, because it has mainly been coming from the south and going north, rather than, because normally at this time of year you would expect the prevailing wind to actually start being a bit more northwesterly, or coming from Scandinavia because of the jet stream, but it has predominantly been from the southwest. So the weather that's what's made the weather abnormally warm for the time of year.
Yes, and also I was just looking at some of the rail websites, which in springtime had a huge blasted message saying essential travel only. I think the benefit of the fact that the railways also go to Scotland and Wales means that there's no messaging saying essential travel only, because obviously they can't. Obviously, if you're traveling in Wales and Scotland, you can travel as you like, I think. So it's only England. But yeah, no, they just say.
They are discovered in Wales, though, which is slightly different to Scotland. I think they do want to, unless you're travelling for work, they do want to discourage cross-border travel, don't they?
Right.
I mean, it's
You
a
need to return the
subtle.
passport.
It's not banned. Well, I don't. I mean, like, this is all the thing, isn't it, about how you police everything and that, because it, as Wales, with some of the, when they went into their lockdown, when they got into their rules about what's an essential purchase and what isn't, and you kind of think, well, who deems what's essential? Because if, say, for example, a cooking utensil may not appear today to be essential,
You need it. You
because,
need it.
because I have a pot. But so say I only have one pot, and the handle falls off, or a hole burns in the bottle, or in the bottom of it, or something
Well, you
like
got someone coming around for dinner.
but that's not allowed in the rules, you know that. But it's that type of thing. So what today isn't essential, tomorrow will potentially could be. So it's a really difficult judgment call, for people to, because it's a bit like, what's because journeys can become, is may not be essential today, but can become essential tomorrow, because somebody might say, and it is, within the context of buying and selling houses, if we sold our house today,
Yeah.
is the question, is it essential for us to travel to look for a house? And that very much depends on the position of our buyer, doesn't it? Because if we can say to our buyer, well, we can't travel at the moment, are you okay to wait till the new year?
Yeah.
They might say, yes, we're fine. But, they might be in a position where they, because of complications of chains, or their rent, they might be on a deadline themselves. But not only just that, but what will, depending on a lot of people, what's fueling the a lot of people moving in the English market, England and Wales market, of course, is the stamp duty holiday.
Yeah.
So that pressure in the new year to complete on house sales is going to become a bigger imperative before the deadline on 31st of March, unless, of course, the government is worrying about what's further coming down the line in terms of recession and house price collapses and the whole economic indicators. So they might want to put more stimulus into the housing market, so they might extend the stamp duty holiday.
Hopeful.
So we benefit from that in terms of the UK, in terms of England, but they haven't had a holiday in Scotland, so we still have to pay the full stamp duty.
Oh, right.
So Nicola, if you're listening, because I know she probably does, we'd like a stamp duty holiday in Scotland too.
You could just stay with us down here in England.
but just onto, because there's been some interesting things happening in transport, I think, in the last couple of weeks, which we're going to probably explore more about in future podcasts. And I also saw popped up in relation to one of those areas is about, is public transport safe?
Yeah.
So I think we want to try and get some experts into to explain some of the RSSB work that's being done on this. But also I saw pop up this morning. I'm just going to see if I can bring up the article actually, if I can find it. About London transport. This was on the BBC News actually. And London, the headline actually says London's transport network tests negative for COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite interesting. So this was work done by scientists from Imperial College, London, which is directly related to the cleaning regime that's put in place. But I think also it backs up the research, perhaps not so much the fact that, because I think when we started at the beginning of March on the pandemic, is that because we knew so little, everything was a worry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what we are increasingly finding, and this is obviously why one of the reasons why certain things are closing and why there's lockdown, because a lot of it is to do with the situation you're in, aerosols. So that's obviously why we should all wear masks, whether we're traveling around or on public transport or at work or whatever. So it's really important, because that is what spreads it in the same way. So when people say, it's like a cold or it's like flu, in some ways it is like that, because those are the kinds of things, aerosols are quite important in spreading those types of viruses and that around networks. So overall, because of what we're doing, we might actually find there's less flu.
Yes.
But
so
I think
next year.
so I think how we promote that message in terms of getting when we go as we go into 2021, in terms of public transport is safe.
Yes.
And and backed up by the RSSB research as well, which shows it in comparison to all the overall risks when you use public transport. And I know you have some interesting ideas, about how people who avoid public transport are quite happy to get on a plane to go to Spain for 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, because people don't think of planes being public transport, but I always do. They are public transport.
Slightly more enclosed.
But I think, I don't know why, but maybe people just think of planes because you tend to go on holiday or a business trip. They just have a more of a luxurious feel, whereas your everyday journey feels more like a distress purchase rather than something you do for a distinct purpose or pleasure or whatever. So maybe there's ideas that need to be explored there.
Not sure too many people think sitting at the back of a Ryanair plane is a luxurious proposition.
But people don't think of it as public transport though, do they?
They don't. It's true.
Yeah, when you think of it in the context of
but it is, because you can have a private plane too, which is apparently very popular now.
I've heard, but did you hear the prices? Like, if you wanted to go to the south of France, I heard, I think, was this it was on one of the Radio 4 programs about businesses and the growth of that. I think it was a private plane to the south of France, £25,000. And I was thought, who has that sort of money?
People with a house in the south.
Millionaires had that sort of money, but they were kind of saying that sort of like the middle classes had this. I was thinking, where do people get all this money from? I often wonder that when I see all these SUVs and Range Rovers and that all around. I think, who can afford these 100 grand cars?
There are a lot of people out there. Also, when you sell your house, you'll have loads of money. You can go to France. But not now, because that's not an essential trip.
Moving house is not essential.
No, going to the holiday to the south of France on a private
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. But of course, it's all those people that went on holiday in the summer that are all to blame for the increasing cases. We should have just kept the borders closed.
I see. Right.
But I guess really, I mean, so there's that sort of like messaging, isn't there, about how it is safe, and that the risk is no greater than anywhere else. So exploring that and getting that message out. But I think as we enter into lockdown Mark 2, I think there are serious issues for transport in the UK. Well, not just the UK, but worldwide. And I think, I mean, obviously we're closer to this market, but in other things that have been in the news this week, more government support needed for Transport for London,
Yeah.
and what that's going to mean for Londoners. And given that a lot of Londoners do rely on public transport, and how that continue, and particularly because some of the most deprived communities are in London. I mean, everyone thinks of London being this big wealth creator, but there are a lot of working class, low class workers that London relies on,
Yeah.
and they rely on public transport, and particularly buses, because they are cheaper than the other public transport, and they go to more areas. So what that means, but I think also of concern is that it was announced that Hull Trains are once again having to stop services,
Yes.
because obviously the open access operators are receiving no government support.
No,
And
I'd be very curious to know the demand on their services over the last few months since they have
do you
restarted.
have any insight into that?
I don't, but we can find out.
So I think, because they haven't been up and running for much, have they? About 10-12 weeks maybe? Because
Yeah.
obviously they stopped.
But I just wonder how whether it was a commercially viable venture, even with the suppressed transport demand at the moment.
And what do you mean by that?
As in, transport's obviously, rail travel's obviously like 30, low, mid 30% of normal. So if you're an open access operator, is it commercially viable to operate with 30% of your passengers? Or have they had more than 30%? And the commuter services are much lower.
Yeah, which is quite interesting, because some of the Hull Trains probably in themselves probably don't have huge amounts of commuting traffic.
Yeah.
So much of their market will be leisure and business. And I know that they do have a lot of business travel from Hull into London, but with working from home and that's probably been severely reduced. But of course, we know that some trends through um, statistics and access to figures that we have, that the peak has changed and there's been more leisure travel.
Yeah.
But that still is not enough to make up for the no commuting market.
No, except if everyone's buying individual tickets in money terms, that's more income per person than a commuting ticket, which is all season tickets.
I guess it depends on how many of those are you buying. Because how much do you think you've saved this year
Me,
with not travelling as much?
in a personal capacity, I shouldn't imagine very much. So I still travel quite a lot. But business travel has disappeared. And business is when you just kind of travel where you needed to at the times you needed to. So it was more expensive.
Yeah.
But that's evaporated.
See, because in terms of, I think my bus travel living in Brighton it's been reduced, but it's still been pretty frequent.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. I've probably gone from traveling most days to maybe only 2 or 3 times a week on a bus.
Right.
And that will probably reduce again during the lockdown, because there's nowhere to go anymore. But in terms of my
Don't see that
overall,
one person in public. Don't keep walking.
I have got to go to the dentist on Monday, so I will get the bus on Monday.
There you go.
I have been doing a lot of walking as well, and that's one of the reasons why I've reduced my bus travel, because I've been doing a lot more walking. Because one of the things that the pandemic has given me is the gift of time.
Yeah.
So I don't think, it takes me an hour and a quarter to walk into Brighton. And before, I was always in a rush. Whereas now I'm not so much in a rush, so I take the opportunity to walk because I can, when the coast isn't flooded, I can walk along the coast, and so it's a lovely walk walking by the sea.
Right.
So you have that, so you have that scenery. But in terms of travel overall, I have saved thousands.
What you can do with all your money?
Move house.
Has it made a noticeable difference to your finances being at home all the time?
Yes.
There you go.
I have, like, I think probably like a lot of people, I've been able to save my salary
Right.
because I've not, I mean, in the concept, I mean, probably if you were to look, because isn't it great banking apps now? Just going completely off tangent, is that they tell you every month what you were spending. And I probably used to spend £800-900 a month on travel.
Yeah.
Easily, for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I used to, before we moved to Brighton and we lived in the Midlands, £12,000 a year I used to spend on travelling.
Yeah.
Going into London, that was my London costs.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people saving that type of money.
Yes, and that's money which is not taxed, but that 12,000 was pretty much going to a public asset of the railways, and now that 12,000 is probably going to the drinking fund. It's less money going into the system.
I have got a rather nice cocktail cabinet.
But you understand what I mean? It's like that you were subsidizing other people who needed to rely on public transport network, whereas now none of that money's going in because there's no fares.
No, but I guess, and that always comes back to what I've said before, is it's I'm not fearful of traveling, and I would say I don't want to go back to the life I had because you can never go back. But I do want to return to being able to meet people and network and have workshops and things like that. And I think I won't be spending that sort of money in the future. Well, unless it all goes up hugely because we've got to pay for it. But I will.
You've got those commuting trips and Pitlochry.
Well, the sleeper is going to be my choice. But you can't get season tickets on the sleeper, can you? Because that will probably be my new way of traveling, the sleeper.
Well, I had a lovely trip on it to Pitlochry just in September.
But
anyway, rounding us off is you mentioned about workshops, traveling to workshops. We cannot travel to it, but we have one next week, don't we?
We do, yes. So on one of our themes, one of the key themes that we've been discussing with our members, reimagining the future of ticketing.
And I know that you've been doing research in advance, so give us some insight from your research.
Now that has put me on the spot because I didn't read my own research before before we came on the podcast. I think, I
Have you
don't.
done any research yet?
I'm not going to say anything insightful because I think the only insightful thing I can say is that the system we have in the UK
In GB.
was, regardless of whether you talk about season tickets or the orange tickets or even some of the reform that has happened over the last 15-20 years. And I'm only talking about sort of, really buses and national rail. I'm not talking so much about TfL in this context, but it is an analog system built for the 20th century and it has not changed. And my challenge for rail and rail innovation group and transport providers and local authorities, and that is, if we don't change it now, when will we?
During lockdown 3.
Because the great thing about when things get upset like this
Yeah.
is that you're pretty much starting from a blank piece of paper again. And you can really look at, what people need, what are the new requirements are, because if we really do want to get people back into, and I'm not even going to use the word public transport, but I'm going to say using the right transport for the right journey at the right time, then we really do need to look at people's needs. And that's about ticketing, it's about fares, about how we talk to people, because I think that's the only way that we can build it back better. And I think it's the only way that we can seriously look at reducing car use,
Yeah.
because the climate emergency has not gone away, and one of the key drivers to removing car uses is getting the system right and getting the pricing right, and that does include cars within that, because whilst there is a big drive to get people to purchase electric cars, and that will get rid of diesel particulates and all the other problems that come with congestion, at the end of the day an electric car still takes up the same space as a diesel or a petrol car.
Yeah.
And also a lot of the pollution doesn't just come from the fumes, it also comes from things like the brake dust and the tires and things like that. So you don't just remove the problem by changing the where your energy comes from for the transport. So we have to look at it holistically, and we have to look at it within the context of transport as a service, or mobility as, no matter how you want to do it, it's bigger than just one form of transport.
Yes.
And I think that's why, where you look at countries where they are making inroads into that, they look at it holistically, and they look at helping people make the right decision to the journey they're making.
Okay.
So that's my insight.
Good things to come. So that's next week.
So looking forward to that with some of our members, having that round table and bringing out research. And I've just promoted again the survey that we're doing on SurveyMonkey. So if you look at our link for Rail Innovation Group, you will see a link to our survey about ticketing and what people think that should look at. So you can also get involved in the conversation.
Wonderful. All right. Well, it's a lovely day. I'm seeing you in a few hours anyway for a meeting, but yes, lunch and learn.
Lunch and learn, looking forward to it.
See you again.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cool.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
Do you think people find our missives interesting?
It's content. It's just content. Just keep pumping out content. Whether they do or not, it's just content. Because of it. Because I'm going to stop recording this now.